I've tried countless times to put into words the adventures we go on and the situations we get into, and I just can't seem to do it. So we're going to show you. We're an international auction company specializing in all things vintage power, antique tractors, vintage cars and trucks, motorcycles, signs, and memorabilia. We're not just auctioneers, we're collectors with a passion for every item we sell. But it's not just about the items, it's also about the people. We get to experience, share, and tell the history of our past. Every day is different in the auction industry. You just never know what's coming next.
This time, we travel to North Carolina and pick up some historical pieces at the Gathering of the Green. Plus, a little rain. Today, the team is in North Carolina working on the Darrell Barrier collection. It includes over 100 pedal tractors, farm toys, nicely restored classic tractors, low production garden tractors, and all kinds of vintage signs. Today, the team is split in two. Shannon, Rick, and Jason are working on toys, while Doug and Alex work on the signs.
You want to start with that pencil? There, you go ahead and make those out.
So you're just going to create a spreadsheet, do descriptions, and...
Yeah, that way we've got dimensions on everything, conditions. We need to have figured out while we're here touching and feeling it for the people that can't.
31 inches wide, 51 and a half tall. The insert's 16 and a half, 17 inches.
Now, why do you use your cell phone?
Well, you know, we usually started out where we were using big cameras doing this, but actually some of these take a lot better photos without a lot of monkeying around with settings, so they're really honestly hard to beat with how good they're getting now.
Without the base, he's 58 and a half inches tall, 29 inches wide. "72 inches long, 52 inches tall." "58 inches tall, 32 and a half wide."
Alex hard at work on his lawnmower.
Move off this chair. I'm just gonna swap it out.
It'd be all right. You could make a desk that went right over the top of this, you know.
Well, it'd be kind of like a, you know, you just drive it around the office. If you need to go outside, go outside. Need to mow grass, do that.
In catalog and mobile at the same time.
I'm telling you, I mean, I think we're on to something here.
It's double-sided.
That looks like overspray.
It is. Yeah, 22 and a half tall, 58 and a half wide, 42 tall, 59 wide, single-sided, 11 inches tall, 21 and a half wide, 38 inches tall, 60 inches wide, 42 inches tall, 58 wide. It's 35 and a half inches tall, 63 inches, 22 and a half inches tall.
Oh, he switched it up again, I see.
Yeah, you know, figure for this time of year, plowing, and this has a deluxe buddy seat.
Look at that. Bring your lady friend along with you when you're mowing,
Yeah.
pushing snow.
That way he can have company in his office.
That's right, that's right.
46 and a half inches tall, 44 and a half inches wide. This Phillips sign has got the original hangers, but they're folded around to the back side of it.
Meanwhile, in the toy room,
This one. Okay. And then it's got signed by Joseph Erdl. 411. Dyersville, Iowa, made in USA. But no other markings on it. Rick. Starts good, runs good.
Case neon, international, blue ribbon, international. Makes for an impressive wall. Clocks are spinning in the right direction even? What a deal.
Almost every tractor company produced some kind of branded clock. They were used in dealerships or as promotional items. These clocks were produced in limited quantities, making them highly sought after by collectors and can bring thousands of dollars. International Harvester is known for their farm equipment, but for years they built refrigerators and freezers. The company released their first line in 1947, with production ending in 1955, when International sold to the Whirlpool Corporation. This refrigerator sign is hard to find in such nice condition. This sign is made from brittle plastic that easily cracks.
Let's start at like 50.
Okay.
On this, and go all the way up to, yeah.
Up to the 74.
Up to 70.
40 and a half.
51.
51. Number 53 is a Gulf Farm Tire Service Center. 33 inches tall, 42 inches wide, 17 and a half tall, G-38, 29 and a half wide. .28 inches round, 4 foot wide, 17 and a half tall, G-72. Yeah, Goodyear tire sign, porcelain, 30 and a half inches tall. Walker and Company. 35 inches round.
The sound of the air compressor signals it's time to move on. The sun is out and the temperature is rising, so the signs have to wait while they catalog the tractors. Coming up, the Gathering of the Green is the place to connect with John Deere enthusiasts from all over the United States, while showcasing and selling John Deere items. The event also gives the Aumann team time to visit with collectors, and for them to bring items they want to consign.
Little ones here that were like a magazine. They're out of the 30s, so I don't know how strict you are with your pre-30 type stuff, but they're cool. I mean, you look through them.
Right.
And these are the good ones. These are good ones. And I don't know if there's much of this. I got these. I bought a guy out of a bunch of stuff, and I've had them for a number of years. And that's a case. I mean, the best.
Best
ever.
early best,
Yeah. And it's kind of falling apart there a little bit, but it's aging. This is a Yuba ball thread.
Yeah, that's a good piece, especially the color. Look at the color on that.
Man. You know, and I've talked to guys that have the tractor, and none of them, that's colorized, I assume, are painted that color.
I'll be darned. That's cool.
Were they gray? They were kind of a green. Some were green, some were gray, and nobody really knew what colors they were supposed to be. So,
that's cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and then this one is
track layer.
This is best. Cool. Best stuff. You know, you get into that.
That's a great piece too.
Yeah, there's a date stamped in there, 1918.
Yeah, that's
early stuff. You know, and they got all that.
Wow,
that's great stuff.
Look how crisp all those pictures are. The corners aren't all messed up.
Yeah, this is actually in really good shape. In the back right here, it has some of the growers that have them, listing them here in my hometown. There's the guy here, Durham, California. There's a guy, Yoakum. There's some roads are Yoakum. So I named after him. And there's like one in Chico here too. That's right north of us, bigger city.
Locally?
That's super cool.
Wokley, yeah, Wokley, Chico, California. And it's just like, it was neat. And I started looking through them, and I've had them for a number of years. Man, we actually keep these a while, but no, let's send them to somebody that really, I do John Deere. And so that's, it's like I say, I bought a bunch of stuff from a collector out of Washington State. I bought a Caterpillar John Deere Neon and a bunch of stuff from him, and he was just wanting to get out, and I got, a good deal. I paid up for everything, but I got a good deal at the time. So put them in the pre-30 sale, boys, and see how they do. If that works for you.
Yeah.
If you don't want them and you think they're trash, I'll throw them away right now.
We're good. We're good. Right here. Right here.
This is great.
Can you talk about like the connection of what Caterpillar had to John Deere? or-
Right.
A lot of the tillage work on the farms out there was done with Caterpillars, and the cultivating and planting work were done with wheel tractors.
Yeah.
And so it was a good fit for the two of them. So the dealerships were together in the late 40s, 50s, and early 60s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then they
Correct.
went their separate ways, and that's why, like that Caterpillar Neon, I can remember as a kid in the dealership in Woodland, California, going in there and there's Caterpillar Neon. And I got a chance to buy one from this with a bunch of other porcelain signs and this stuff and a bunch of other stuff, and I'll take it all.
Yeah,
Those
so
are
that's
such
great
great
stuff.
Yeah, I forgot about the tillage with the Kilifer,
Yeah.
part of John Deere,
Yep.
being on the West Coast
Yeah.
with that connection with the
That's
cat
why those
pullers.
John Deere tractors back there are out there aren't so worn out, because they never did any heavy tillage. You just cultivate and pull in a planter. That was it. It was easy work. Those have got good photos in them. It's kind of, there's 3 issues there that I wound up with, and they just kind of neat. But there's 30, it says in the back, there's 30.
Oh, there's the pictures.
Somebody will want them. Yeah, I just had that, and I thought, it's something throw it in there if you want.
E.H. Crowfoot.
This came, the guy
Dealer?
got it from his dad or grandfather and stuff at a dealership up in Western Washington.
You got your information on this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got him.
You got it?
He's in the system.
He's in the system, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll get it taken care of.
Yeah, I see you on, where you guys are hooking through that. Well, you too. Yeah, Justin.
Oh.
Over there, Herb Baker.
Bakers. That was a mess to begin with. We
yeah.
got it organized.
Yeah.
I'll take care.
Okay, thanks,
Appreciate you, brother.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Back at the auction center, some completely different items are being dropped off for the pre-30 auction. It's raining, but Shannon and Josh need to unload a couple of crawler tractors.
Another lovely day at Aumann.
What's the stuff for?
330, 2022.
This tractor is a Caterpillar 2-ton, which started out as the Holt 2-ton and was later renamed after the merger of Best and Holt in 1922. It was first introduced in 1924, with production ending in 1928.
How long have you been doing this?
Oh, I've just been a farm girl.
I didn't ask that question.
I've been here almost 3 years.
It's powered by a 4-cylinder, 251 cubic inch engine, rated at 18 horsepower on the drawbar and 25 horsepower on the belt. This one needs some work, but still is a restorable tractor. The other model is a Caterpillar D2, the smallest diesel tractor built by the company. It was introduced in 1938, with production ending in 1957. It's powered by a 4-cylinder, 221 cubic inch engine, rated at 26 horsepower on the drawbar and 32 horsepower on the belt. On a cold January day, Brian Hull sat down with Kevin Boss to discuss the hobby, their mutual interest in John Deere machines, and Kevin's upcoming auction.
So let's talk about the combine collection. I know you got pull type combines, you got corn pickers, you've got the 300 Husker I know is coming up on the auction. You also got the self-propelled combines, right up to the 105 hydro diesel with all the bells and whistles with a quick attach front end or front header. You know, that's something pretty astounding.
Yeah, and I started out with the corn pickers. You know, basically my goal was to have one of every model that Deere made, and I did. Now, believe it or not, you know, a lot of people ask me, you know, well, what's that amount to, 6 or 7? And I said, no, it's 18. You know, there was 18
models. Different John Deere corn pickers.
Corn picker models.
Wow.
And so I did have all of them, and I'm still keeping, you know, the rare, more unusual stuff. You know, people have to realize that the auction isn't my collection. You know, the auction is the stuff that I can do without or I can replace.
Okay.
You know, the idea of the auction was to, I'm trying to amass monies for other endeavors.
Other projects, yes. Exactly. But I want to go back to those 18 different model combines or corn pickers that you had. Those weren't just corn pickers to sit. All those corn pickers were field operational.
They were all field operational but one, and I'm still working on trying to find an elevator to make it operational. I have one of them that is not operational, but otherwise, yes, they were all functional, and they have been used. They have all been in the field at one time or another.
Wow. I know that's pretty amazing within itself. A lot of people get them all dressed up, and
a lot of that, Brian, is kind of that same way. You know, once you've completed the goal, you know.
Next.
Exactly, and I'm kind of that way. You know, I see a goal that I want to meet. You meet it, and then I'm dissatisfied. You know, that satisfactory thing for that goal has been met, and I'm ready to move on to something different.
Move on to another one. Well, that was kind of the same way with that the portable corn crib.
Yes.
I remember that when I first come out here one time and you said, I think I'm going to do this, and I just looked at you, go, you're going to do what? You're going to make a portable corn picker or a corn crib. This I got to see. So tell me how that all come about.
You know, it started with the fact that I had learned that John Deere, which at that time I was collecting Deere only, I had learned that John Deere had made inside cupped elevators for corn cribs. And I always thought that you know, that was another part of farming, that if you go to an old farm and you see a crib with an inside elevator, that was the ritzier farmers at the time that could afford those things. And I always thought that would make a really good display at a show, and I knew that not a lot of people knew that Deere even made an inside cupped elevator. So we had to come up with a way to display that elevator, and that's what it turned into, was a whole crib. Now, the original design was the elevator, but when you start a project like that, sometimes you get ventured off, and it's a necessity more than, I didn't really want all the optional things that I put on the crib, but it was a necessity to make it operational.
Okay.
Which again, I was into I want this thing to lift a wagon. I want that wagon lift to be able to support and pick up a wagon load of corn. I want to be able to move the corn. I want to be able to shell the corn, grind it. I want all these features to work. So you start with those things, and you kind of have an open mind for engineering, is what I call that. Open-minded engineering. So don't get stuck on a rut, because you know, you may just have to drop the whole project. So we moved things around and made it work. And while you're doing that, you got to keep in mind, how am I going to move it? So, you know, half the battle was making it usable, so that this thing was portable enough to take to shows and set up and tear down. Now, it's not a quick set up or tear down,
right?
But it's not terrible either.
Because you said it takes, what, 2 to 4 hours depending on the crew
You
that
can
you have
set
with you?
up, with a couple guys that have done it before, you can set the whole thing up in about 4.5 hours. But a lot of the smalls take more time than the 7 or 8 large pieces. You know, the 7 or 8 large pieces, in an hour and a half or 2 hours, you can have it pretty well ready to go.
Because not only, like you said, is the bucket elevator, you have the wagon lift, you have the sheller for the ear corn, and then from the sheller it goes to the grinder.
Yes.
All those take power sources. I know you got jack shafts, you got power shafts, and that's all powered with?
The wagon lift and the inside cupped elevator right now, I've got it running with I use a 1.5 horse hit and miss engine. But it could be used with an old open armature electric motor.
Okay, yeah, that was always a possibility back in the day.
The jack shaft that I'm using right now is actually for an electric motor.
Okay.
And that's why it turns the speed it does. Because for one thing, I didn't want it to turn at full rate because your demonstration doesn't last very long.
Right, you're not in production.
No, I'm not trying to unload a wagon in 3 minutes, so I'm trying to make it last longer. So with the jack shafting I use and the speed of the hit and miss motor versus the speed of an electric motor slowed me down to about 1/3 of the actual speed.
Got it.
So that powers the elevator and the wagon lift. Now, like I said, originally it could have been electric. It could have had a line shaft run outside. I've seen people do that with a speed jack and a tractor. The hammer mill grinder I've got set with a door in the end of the crib and a flat belt. And that came from a neighboring corn crib. When I was a kid, I did chores for a neighbor, and we ground ear corn once a week for the cattle. And he had an old Super M, and you opened the door in the crib and you rolled the belt out. The burr mill was mounted in the crib, and you once a week ground ear corn in the crib. So that's kind of where that feature came from, that I've got the door and you roll the belt out. Okay. You know, it was something I had seen.
Wow, wow, unbelievable. And this is all transportable. It loads onto a gooseneck trailer. I know right now you have it stored on a running gear.
Yeah, I've got it. What it fits in is it fits in an 8-foot wide and 16-foot long area. So that leaves you trailer room for a loader, or if you want to take a sheller or other tractors with, there's room to put other things on your trailer.
Wow, that whole display breaks down to something that small.
Yes.
That is kind of neat.
And sometimes at a show, that's half the show. Between setting it up and tearing it down, I've had people that have sat and watched and come over and said that was more interesting than the crib itself.
It's definitely a choreographed event, because I've seen you set it up several times at several shows, and I know you have a pretty dedicated crew that tends to go with you, and they just know exactly what the next step is. I know you take your little compact utility tractor.
I've got a little compact utility tractor, and the pieces all also had to be modeled to fit the lift capacities of that tractor. So we had some things we had to change later on through the course of it to make it so the tractor would load and unload the whole crib by itself.
Because not every show you go to has the ability to lift some of that stuff.
And I didn't know if I wanted to trust other people's loaders to, because I was a little safety conscious of the thing. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff is built in the feet under the, there's a whole footing underneath the elevator that helps it stand up. It's not if you walk by and look at it, you think it looks a little wobbly, but it's actually
quite stable.
It's quite stable, actually.
On the next Old Iron Adventures, we travel to the 2022 Gathering of the Green in Davenport, Iowa, and take you on the farm toy adventure of a lifetime.